Moses, I'm going to start off with the Moorish American prayer. The 2 on the right, 5 on the left, face the east. In unity, repeat after me. Allah, Father, universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation. By night and by day, it was Holy Prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Brother Solo, you got the Constitution and bylaws with you, Mo?
Yes, Sheik. First, I'd like to rise and give praise to Allah, Father of the universe,
Yes,
giving highs honors to His holy divine prophet, Noble Jew Ali, giving honors to all Asiatics across the global continent, and special honors to Moorish Americans as a pure and clean nation, Islam. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali. Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Islam. Glad to see everybody here today. I want to first begin by giving up all praises to Allah and all honors to each prophet, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. I want to rise and give honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the one sent to us on these shores, was pulled amongst us, Asiatics here in North America, to show us the truth about our nationality, the truth about our inheritance, the truth about our divine creed. And I also want to give high honors to the forerunner of the prophet, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who gave us the economic plan to say, rise up, you mighty race. Also, I want to give honors to the Moorish Science Temple of America, the first appointed leader, Edward Milieu, who was filled that station the Supreme Grand Sheik. And I will give, and I like to give high honors to the one who is currently in that position, our brother Keith Dandridge Ill. I'd like to give honors to each and every one of y'all today for attending. Islam.
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 Islam, bro.
Islam. 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 Islam.
We got a special guest today. This is my brother, Dr. Terrence Bird L.
Oh, Islam.
In Syracuse,
Islam.
brother.
Islam. Islam.
This brother is a community development specialist. You know what I mean? A Sabiite.
Hey, man.
He get it when he get in, man.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful story, man. Praise Allah
yes,
for attending, man.
Yeah, praise Allah for having me, brother.
No doubt.
Yeah, I had to look. It wasn't spam. I'm like, man, I get all these spam messages and stuff. I'm like, man, I looked in the inbox. I'm like, wait a minute, let me click on the button, man. You know,
Yeah.
I came into the meeting. I heard the brother reading the law. I said, oh, hold on, Mo. I put it on mute and got my fez on now.
Yeah. Hey, brother Abdullah, he caught me early. He said, "Where your fez at?" He caught me because I was tightening up on this presentation I was going to show y'all today, and it ain't nothing extravagant. It's just something that hit certain points.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to just let the Moors know that we you know, and he caught me because I hit him in, and he chimed in and he caught me. He said, "Where your fez at?" I was like, "Yeah, well, you got me in the work. I'm working right."
Yeah.
But praise Allah. So Moors today, if y'all can hear me with the sound of my voice, today is for those who practice Christianity. Today is their Easter. Okay, and I remember we had discussed last week, and for those who weren't here, we were talking about chapter 15, and Jesus actually going into the wilderness to meditate and to deal with his higher self and his lower self. And we went into that whole fashion about you know, how esoterically and basically spiritually is dealing with different aspects of ourselves, questioning ourselves, knowing us exactly, you know, who we are, also dealing with transitioning, you know what I'm saying, into our higher selves through the challenges, through the struggles and the things that keep us, you know what I'm saying, in our lower self. You know what I'm saying, the temptations, all those type of things that may come, and prevailing over that. And the fact that, you know what I'm saying, there's only one way to really prevail is actually being in your higher self or being in your holy breath. You know, we talk about the tempter. The tempter was nobody outside him. It was actually all the things that were in him were actually coming out during those time of fast, and relating it also to with we say kawa, what is the word, Arabic word, and meaning for seclusion. And during the seclusion, Jesus' seclusion, he was able to face his self, his lower self. And what is approaching within 2 weeks, more Ramadan. It's the perfect time where all your situations are actually going to appear during your fasting. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, you're gonna start off good, and then during the middle is where it's gonna struggle. You're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna, it might be like, yo, take a little bite of this, take a little sip of this, because in this Ramadan, you're not supposed to eat or drink. And I actually give a testimony. My first time practicing this before I was in the temple, and I was actually dealing with the Sufi order, and they told me about Ramadan. And Sheikh Sufi at the time, one thing I love my brother Kiamu, Abdul Kiamu. He's a good brother, and you can call him Sheikh Sufi. He goes by Sheikh Sufi now, but sometimes he lacks to go in detail. He doesn't go in detail sometimes, and he forgets a lot of things, because when you zikr a lot, when you do your zikr and you're meditating a lot, sometimes your foreconscious is not really active as much. You know what I'm saying? In a sense where you're not catching things and remembering things to do certain things. It doesn't mean, you know, that you're there's a damaging thing in effect there, but it's just the fact that you're channeling your back conscious so much through the meditation that sometimes you forget to do normal things. Like, yo, I gotta remember this, or I remember my keys. You forget your keys. Well, basically, he forgets sometimes to go in detail about certain things. And when he told me about Ramadan, I didn't ask any questions. I thought they were going to tell me what everything I was supposed to do. So Ramadan approached, and I go to 7-Eleven, and I live not too far from 7-Eleven down to where I lived at, and I went there, and I went there for a drink, get something to drink, and the brother, the Muslims they were from Morocco, and they said, oh, they said, oh, Aki, you a Muslim, right? They said, yeah, I was going to get something to drink. He said, no, Aki, you can't drink. And he said, I said, what? He said, nah, you can't drink. I was like, oh, no. He said, no, you can't have drink off me until sundown. I was like, I didn't know. And I called brother Kiamo, and I asked him. He said, yeah. I said, oh, man, stop for I forgot to say. He said, yo, we're going to have a Ramadan class next time at the Dara, so we feel everybody coming. So, yeah, don't worry about it. He said, whatever. But that was my first time really realizing it, and I was like, wow, this thing is really something, it's really a challenging thing when it comes to Ramadan and practicing, that. And it comes, and it's very much of a purifying moment, and I encourage all people to participate in it, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a time of introspect, you know what I mean? A time of introspect. But moving forward, we're going to talk about chapter 16 of the Moorish Holy Quran, and it falls, and it's kind of funny because it falls right on this specific day, and this day is supposedly centered around this particular event in this chapter, and this is the trial of Jesus, and the trial. Remember, it's a trial. Because when you read it, you realize they don't ever really go into the crucifixion. And this is where the prophet was specific. And that's why some people are like, oh, the prophet knew that as Muslims and Muslims, we don't believe Jesus was crucified. Okay? The Quran tells you, you know what I'm saying, that, Allah confused them and thinking that Jesus was crucified, but Jesus wasn't crucified. You know what I'm saying? But some people say, what about Islam? And some people say, what about, the questionnaire? We'll get into that too, about, what the questionnaire means. And you guys get a chance to put your basically y'all measures in if y'all feel something y'all need to add or something. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start. Let me share. Let me see if I can get this to share real quick. Y'all can view demonstration real quick. Y'all can see that? Islam?
Islam.
Islam. Keep it like this. I don't need to go into the whole thing. Let's go to chapter 1. Chapter 16.
Yeah, I like that Circle 7, man. It's an old
Yeah,
one.
it's an old one. That Bailey Hill got that one.
Yeah?
Yeah. He got
Wow.
that. He got Emilio's Circle 7, man.
That's who that is?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he got that one. I seen it. He showed it to me last picture. Yeah. So something else. But I'm going to the lesson. Moorish Holy Quran, or the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by Drew Ali. Doesn't say divinely prepared. Doesn't say authored or anything like that. So, moving forward, we're talking about chapter 16. Okay, Pilate's decision. I found a picture of what would be Pontius Pilate or Pilate, and it says in the lesson, it says Pilate, final effort to release Jesus fails. He washes his hands and feign innocence, delivers Jesus to the Jews or execution, and soldiers drive him to crowd. Superstitions, people are Jews. Superstitious, I mean, or people are Jews. They have a faith that they have borrowed from the idol worshippers of other lands. That at the end of every year, they may heap all their sins upon the head of some man set apart to bear their sins. The man becomes a scapegoat for the multitudes, and they believe that when they drive him forth into the wilds or into foreign lands, they are released from sins. Verse 4. So every spring before the feast, they choose a prisoner from the prisons of the land, and by a form their own, they fain would make him bear their sins away. Among the Jewish prisoners in Jerusalem were 3 who were leaders of a vile, seditious band who had engaged in thefts and murders, raping, and had been sentenced to be crucified. Okay. So, in this dialogue, or this self-dialogue, monologue, you could say, in a part, Pilate is thinking to himself, he's saying, okay, I'm at this point, because prior, really, he was trying to release Jesus prior to this situation. He was trying to release Jesus prior to the situation. But now he has gotten to the point of this is specific day, a time of the year, okay? And this is the year, supposedly, where these people, or this community of Jewish people, are supposed to somehow take all their faults and their sins and put it on someone else and cast this person away from their particular community, and the response, or symbolically representing that Allah has forgiven them for all the wrong things he have done. Okay, now moving forward, he speaks about that some of these sins, or some of these practices actually come from an actual you could say paganistic, or though idol worshippers of other lands, and they took in their pretty much their belief. So he's giving you a thing like, hey, I know this stuff is this is just a formality. There's really no substantiation to this particular thing. They borrowed from this guy, they borrowed from that guy, or this person, or these groups, and they're just doing the same. Now, anyone knows who reads the Bible, in most part, you understand that Israel has been under many strongholds, moving up forward to the story of Jesus. So up to that point, they've been under Babylonian, you name it. They've been under many strongholds, and it's under, well, it's basically common logic that you would see that these individuals would have picked up something, okay? But we know that the Old Testament deals with the sacrifice and all that. We're speaking from a scholarly point of view. Like we know, as more science, we don't give into those particular practices. Those particular practices are those who don't know of self. So, but Pilate, he has an idea that this stuff really is just formality. But he's under, because, and you have to understand who Pilate is. Pilate, that position of Pilate is a low grade. Let me see if I can go into the information. I'm gonna stop this share real quick. And I'm gonna go into my share my screen real quick. So share the screen. Okay. Hopefully I can see the screen. Yeah, it's Facebook. Morning. Let's see. So we're going to Pilate. Roman Pilate. Let's see. And y'all can see actually, and it'll tell you right here. Pontius Pilate was a Roman governor under the Emperor Tiberius in the 1st century. He is best known for the judge of Jesus' trial. Pontius Pilate was a Roman governor under Emperor Tiberius. But if I could find it, actually, they say that Pontius Pilate, here we go. Pilate was the 5th governor of the Roman province of Judea during the reign of Emperor Tiberius. The post of governor of Judea was a relatively low prestige, and nothing is known of how Pilate obtained the office, only by just Josephus. Josephus, for those who don't know, is basically this Jewish historian, or the supposed Jewish historian. And I say supposed because there's basically claims that he was actually, or the name Josephus was actually basically a made up name, and it was one of the Piso family, or Arius or Rios Pisos, somebody from the Pisos family who actually assumed that identity as Josephus. And anybody who studies a lot of the writings at that time, coming out of those eras, would basically come to the idea that a lot of individuals assumed false identities and wrote books under false identities.
It still happens today, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, look, MCs, we do it.
Yeah, MCs do it. MCs do it, man. That's right.
Yeah.
MCs do it. They do it.
Yeah, MCs do it.
Persona,
Yeah.
Only people I know really was EPMD were really the first ones to really use their regular names on as MC, and then Keith Murray and guys using their regular names, and then Kendrick Lamar, I guess he carrying on the tradition, but for the most part, prior to that, you would take on a persona. And these writers at the time had to do these personas because if I have a piece of information, in order for it to really climb or gather interest, it wouldn't gather interest if it was under my name. I had to take on another name for you to actually give it any attention. And then sometimes it wasn't even the writers. Sometimes it was the booksellers or the traders who was trading items and books and stuff, and they might have had something written by someone else, but in order to sell it to somebody, they would say, hey, this is the book of so-and-so, or the mystery book of so-and-so. And what happens is that begins to kick up so much notoriety amongst a lot of people who are into the book trading and document finding, excavation, and then it doesn't change. And people carry it on for generations saying, yeah, this is the book of so-and-so, such. And so, now, we have a lot more technology. We're a little more into, inclusive, basically finding out what's real. So a lot of that stuff has been debunked on who's who or who wrote this, and so forth and so on. A lot of times it was just individuals who were arguing a point, but in order for the point to actually come across, it would take on a misnomer in order to, basically have the validation. Islam. So going forward, we have this man Pontius Pilate, and I'm just going to start, here that he was a low grade governor. He didn't want, he was put in this power position because you understand, in order to, in Judea, when the Romans were there, it was this, they had a certain occupation occupying it. Okay, they were there. And he probably was there, was like, he wanted to be closer to the capital probably. And they was like, no, we're just going to put you over here, out here, we're going to move your desk from the main floor down to the basement. So you're going to be down there and you're going to pretty much be governor there. And it's a low grade governor. So he didn't really have too much of a force with him, So the jurisdiction, even though the Romans had a particular jurisdiction, they didn't have complete jurisdiction over the Jews. Okay, now we're dealing with civic and a law standpoint. Okay, let me go back to this side. Okay, so now we're dealing with what he's trying to decide. He's trying to figure out, okay, and under my jurisdiction, Jesus is innocent. Okay, according to me. But in this particular situation, and this is their holiday, I have to go along with what their holiday. So he's thinking, maybe I could switch it up. Maybe I could offer to release Jesus, and they can just cast him out. And what? I'll show you.
And they threatened to tear down the palace.
Yeah, right. Ooh, it's small. I forgot to correct that. Excuse me, Morris. Sorry about that. Pardon the body. Correct that. I know y'all cannot see that at all. It's a little better. Let me see if I can get it. Oh, why is it on that now? All right. Switch it over. I was gonna leave it like that. I mess with it. I'll just read it. Just listen to the voice more. It says, Barabbas and Jazia was among the men who were to die. But Barabbas was rich and he had bought off priests. And I guess that verse was to be soon. Remember, I'm gonna tell you this: the Qurans we get in the Grand Body, they are actually from the original ones that are written. So there are a lot of misspelled words in these Moorish Holy Quran, as they didn't have spell check at that time. They didn't have a backspace button either. So whatever they typed, that went to press. So bought off the priests, soon to be scapegoat for the people at the coming feast. And he was anxiously in waiting for his hour to come. Boom. Barabbas, or some say Barabbas, he basically had money. Now, this one gives a little more detail who he is in comparison to who he was in the Bible, what they say in the Bible. This particular brother or individual, he brought off the priest early. He knew he needed to go. He didn't even care about his partner, Jazia. Jazia supposedly was his partner. Okay?
You know how that is when the boys grab you, man. You on your own.
Yeah, you on your own. Yeah.
He ain't have his bail money.
He kept the
He
fault.
couldn't save his lawyer money.
Yeah, he kept the fault. He had basically he basically made his man take the fall from what he had to say. He said, I don't care about you, I'm out. So he basically paid the priest. So he knew this thing was coming. So he's like, look, I'm be the one on that letter. I'm saying, I don't care anyone else. I'm saying, he was already favored. I'm saying, he was basically a gangster at the time.
Yeah.
Caring about Roman rules and so forth and so on. And basically, he was able to use his funds or the money that he had, because some say he was the son of a rabbi. We're going to go into his name in a minute, because a lot of people don't break down who Barabbas is. Okay, but this verse 7. Now Pilate thought to turn the superstition to account to save the Lord Jesus. So he went again before the Jews and said, you men of Israel, according to my custom, I will release to you today a prisoner who shall bear your sins away. This man you drive into the wilds or into foreign lands, and you have asked me to release Barabbas, who has been proven guilty of the murder of a score of men. Now, hear me, men. Let Jesus be released, and let Barabbas pay his debt upon the cross. Then you can send this Jesus to the wilds and hear no more of him. Okay? Verse 11. Now, what the ruler said, the people were enraged. They began to plot to tear the Roman palace down and drive and exile Pilate and his household and his guard. When Pilate was assured that the civil war would follow if he heeded not the wishes of the mob, he took a bowl of water. In the presence of the multitude, he washed his hands and said, this man whom you accuse is the Son of the Most High Allah, and I proclaim my innocence. If you will shed his blood is on your hands, not mine. And the Jews exclaimed, and let his blood be on our hands and on our children's hands. Okay, so as you see, that Pilate had to make a decision. There was a threat of civil unrest. So now when you're dealing with the damaging of, my governmental rule, I have to do something. Now I have to basically fall to what your wishes are. He said, like I said, he's a low grade governor. So he didn't have, because if this was closer to the central empire, that all this would have never happened. They were like, look, we're gonna do what we're gonna crucify what we want, regardless of what you say. Barabbas was off the hook, he killing men, he doing whatever he want to do. we're killing him. You know what I'm saying? But at this point, because the Jewish community is probably a lot more strong, it gives you an idea of how well together they were, how strong they were, and probably how lesser power of enforcement the Jews probably or the Romans had. So therefore, the Jews, tearing down the palace, exiling Pilate from office was a possibility, and Pilate not being probably well enforced or well backed in a sense, he was like, look, I probably, because he's probably thinking like, Tiberius is gonna look at me and thinking like, okay, why didn't you just give him what you wanted? A whole lot of thoughts might have been going through Pilate's head. Okay. But he ended up saying, look, in order to save face, save the Roman Empire, I'm going to do what they want and just, I'm going to release Barabbas and we're just going to crucify Jesus.
Islam.
Islam. Now,
another hidden tell behind that is that Pilate really was a follower. Him and his wife were secret followers of Jesus. That's why he went to the bat to try to clear him in innocence. He was like, yo, let him go. He ain't commit no crime. Everybody else up here guilty, right? But remember, the people, right? You got to remember, like, I like looking at this stuff for then and then today, right? On how our people are today, right? When you switch roles with Jesus and even put the prophet there, or any brother that steps out with that Christ energy in this age to stand up and teach the people the truth, right? You have this symbolically being placed, because actually that trial was a farce. It was a made up trial. They freestyled it. Like, okay, we're gonna have. It wasn't it's like what Asiatics face today in the court system, right? These pseudo trials they claim that they give you, right? And it's already rigged against you because it's already decided that you're guilty. Let's just go through the formalities, right? So, when they're dealing with them, and look, the people threaten to tear down the palace. I mean, they threaten an all-out civil war, man, if y'all didn't crucify him, right? If they didn't crucify brother Jesus, man. So, like, looking at that, and it showed that our mentality, because remember, at the time, they was ruling a portion of Palestine at that time. So our people were starting to fall under, in a sense, a colonized. That was the first Romanized ideals we were starting to visit and ramp up, because it's at the time when the Roman Empire was expanding.
Yes, sir.
And then they eventually took his teachings, as we know, and then ran with them and created a religion out of it, in a sense, which is, of course, is mockery, to kill somebody for their beliefs and then turn around and profit and conquer the world under those ideals, just to do away with the whole thing as we know in this, and what the prophet came to reveal. It was Islam he was teaching. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't trying to hear that. Like, you and the Father are one, and God is in you, and the spirit of love and brotherhood is what it's going to take for us to get out of this oppression. And we know the message, because it's the same message of today from 2,000 years ago.
Right.
The sad part, just like 2,000 years ago, the people, has to be stirred up for that message, because their hearts were hardened. I mean, what didn't they even say? We have no king but the great Tiberius.
Yes, right.
You know what I'm saying?
No
like,
king.
So they did that right there. The course was set. It's like today with our people. Oh, well, that nigga ain't my prophet. So y'all excuse my language, but the vulgarity. But that's just the reality and mentality of our people, right? We see a divine prophet. We see somebody true and divine. They like, man, who's that nigga in that picture with that fancy garb on? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, yo, he was a redeemer for our people. He's a prophet unto our people. And it's like, man, that nigga ain't my prophet. And that European image is my Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying, well, yo, Jesus was here, not 2,000 years ago. Jesus was here in the 20s. I mean, we're carrying the message of Jesus, but our people, when we've been kind of like Malcolm said, we've been led astray. We've been run amok. You know, like all these did bamboozled, hoodwinked. You know, we fell for the illusion, man. And you see it 2,000 years ago play out. Same thing. And I think what's more significant is you had a Roman governor, a Roman official, right? Step two, and try to go to bat and doing that, you know. I'm sorry, I think the brother said something. I'll let him speak. My fault. But yeah, I know he said something to the effect.
Yeah. I got nothing. Sister, hold on quick. Sure, sis. I got you, sis. You know, yes, sir. I see what she's saying. Yeah, so but, and she's right. Sister Shipman, she Islam says, you want to speak on that? Do you have some insight on that?
I just happened to notice how very quickly we went from not being able to get the coronavirus, being the lowest population to be affected by this coronavirus, to suddenly it's the people of color, it's the Black community. And I'm like, and I had never looked into chapter 16 like that until I got called into this meeting. There are no strange happenings. So I was like, wait a minute, this is the same thing all over again. They're trying to lay the burden of coronavirus at the feet of our people, and they're expecting it to just blow over, and we gonna take this huge L for something that we all know is their fault. Islam?
Islam. And thank you very much. And if you would look at basically into this chapter, and sister, I actually recorded a few weeks ago. We did chapter 14, and we talked about the coronavirus and the quarantine and how the astrologically, we're at the great conjunction at this point this year, 2020, and how everything is lined up. And remember, they deal with astrology. They deal with astrology in the government. They have astrologers, soothsayers, they have all that. Ain't nothing changed. They know they put these things in operation in 2020. Now, as far as the Asiatics being deemed the ones more ill-affected, most likely to catch it, most likely to die, it's going back and forth in that. We know for a fact, and I just under my breath, in the sound of my voice, I'm gonna tell y'all that a lot of that is not true. Okay, I'm not saying you cannot catch the coronavirus. I know somebody that got it. You know what I'm saying? I know a couple people that got it. I know of someone who's close to some other people who I work with had just died, and he was 35. Okay, but the underlying thing is we don't know the underlying health problems that these people had. They're just saying they died. Now, there's a sister on my Facebook friend list. She and I just talked to her. I talked to her just to check in on her. She's feeling much better, but she got hit with it. And she said she went to the hospital and they gave her the test, right? And she didn't see the results, but they said, yeah, you got it. You got the coronavirus. You got it. So a lot of people are being falsely diagnosed with coronavirus. Now remember what a coronavirus is and what the COVID-19 is. Okay? Coronavirus is really just a flu.
Yes.
You can get. So if you got the coronavirus, okay, but that don't mean you got COVID-19. Understand? So therefore, it gets flipped, and everybody who hears it on the news thinking that, oh, all Asiatics are susceptible to this thing, so forth and so on, which is a lie. But what it's going to do is going to make it more it's going to make basically make the mass majority of the people more fearful. It's going to make our people fearful, and it's going to probably, because if Bill Gates is trying to push in a vaccination, he's trying to test it already on Nigerians and stuff like that, which really I don't see why, because Nigeria and African, their COVID-19 rates are low. They're not as high as the United States, and they're actually trying to maintain it. You know what I'm saying? So you don't hear about them having coronavirus rates or COVID-19 rates, but if over here they're trying to push it so they can push a vaccination, so they can push population control. the truth be the matter is that we have accelerated our birth rate. You know what I'm saying? Now, it doesn't. I don't care. They'll say, "Oh, well, we this population." Now we're larger than what you think we are in the United States. We're very large. Islam, we're very large. And what the issue is that they have to put some type of control, because in that factor, you know what I'm saying, they're becoming the minority. Oh,
They already have, Mo. What we watch basically the ship sinking.
Yes, sir. That's what the ship sinking.
The ship sinking, and they
yeah.
reach it. You know what I mean? And I think again, one of the things I build with a couple brothers and sisters here about we missed. The prophet was a healer.
Yes, sir.
His coming was prophetic, right? Not just in the sense of redeeming our people, but he showed us, you know, in what he brought our people in healing, what's going to come, how they're going to try to poison us. It's through healthcare systems. At the time, eugenics was emerging in the 20s, right? I think we kind of lose sight of what was popping up during these times to try to justify the extermination of the Asiatics, right? It was eugenics, and a scary secret is eugenics started right here in Syracuse, New York. It's why Planned Parenthood and all of those type of birth control initiatives and all these Planned Parenthood initiatives are very strong in this region of upstate New York, because this is the hub. In fact, Syracuse, New York has the the highest infant mortality death rate in the world.
Really?
In the world.
Syracuse in the world?
Syracuse, New York.
Wow.
That's why it's so appalling, because our rates exceed third world countries.
For infant mortality?
Yes, Mo. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. You can look it up, Google it. They got
I ain't never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's something new.
Syracuse.
Wow, man. That's
Yeah.
serious.
It's wrong.
I heard a few years back that we were talking about the birth rates of the so-called white people and their death rates. I think their birth rate is like in the negatives now, and their death rates are like ridiculously high. And then you juxtapose that with the sold story that we make up 13% of the population, and we still outnumber them. Islam,
and you have to consider a year ago or 2 years ago, where they were trying to, in several states, they were deciding on abortion, actually penalizing women who got abortions. You know what I'm saying? Because the ones that were getting abortions were the European women.
We're Europeans, right? Those abortion laws were never meant for us.
No, because
they were trying to stop their own. That's why states like Alabama, Kentucky, West Virginia, they were like, nope, you can't do this. And that whole feminist movement, I was just like, y'all do realize they're not talking about us, right?
Yeah, I had a double take, because at first I was confused, and then someone cleared it up for me, and I was like, yo, you know what? You're right. It makes more sense for that to be more penalizing. Because I was thinking about, wait a minute, I thought they wanted to give us abortions, and they put the Planned Parenthoods in the hood. So,
they got to
it's like 3 of them in Newark where I'm at.
I was like, wait a minute. I'm confused right now. But then somebody said, I think. And I had to think, and I was like, okay. Oh, okay. They're probably talking about the European. Like, they talking cold, man. They'll give you something that's not direct, and it covers something that is direct. You know what I'm saying? They'll do something to blanket a whole genre, a whole situation, a blanket idea, and then you'll be like, okay, well, that's good. But then again, you don't realize the underlying issue. You know what I'm saying? They'll give you a big title for something, but then they'll fill in the bullet points later. What actually mean? You know what I'm saying? What it actually means.
Well, I think too, one thing like you have to we keep in mind is the code words, coded language.
Yes,
so like even earlier, like you said, nobody caught on. I made a joke with my friend about that. I So nobody caught on that it's coronavirus and then it's that COVID, right? So I'm like, well, which one is it? And then I, like you said, with the sister that got on, they said, yo, they told her she had it, but then wouldn't tell her what her symptoms were. And then they were trying to give her symptoms she didn't have. Like they say, oh, you got a fever. And she like, my fever, it was like 98.1. And then they tried to
That
tell
ain't
her
no fever. I work in healthcare.
that.
No, seriously, that's not a fever. I work in
Yeah.
healthcare. In fact, I dealt with 2 COVID positive patients today.
Wow.
I mean, I see this every day. I literally walk into the belly of the beast every day I go to work, and I'm like, what's going on behind those closed doors? And then not everybody fits behind those closed doors.
Right.
I had 2 women today, 2 Asiatic women. This is why I do what I do. I'm guarding our libraries, y'all, but that's a whole other demo.
Okay.
2 Asiatic women, and they, the notifications were up that they were COVID positive. There's a little coded system. And I'm just like, okay, I go in this room with no fear, all my PPE in place. And I'm like, I'm observing now because I'm doing, personal care, 6 inches from these women.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's different about this person?
Right.
Well, nothing different except the cough and the way they smell. I'm like, it's something to this. I'm like, I'm gonna do some more observing as I go back to work.
You said a cough?
And I'm just like, a cough. The way they, the cough, the sound they make when they cough.
Okay.
The lethargy, the way they smell.
Right.
She felt warm to the touch, but according to that thermometer, she ain't had no fever. But I'm like, no, she hot. And she was very unresponsive. Like I had to put all my weight behind moving her, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. It's wild.
Wait, we had a brother on the call. Islam Issa. You hear me, brother Issa?
Islam, brother.
Mo, brother, can you tell me about your experience with the COVID?
Yeah, brother. My wife and I went to the hospital. I actually did have a low-grade fever and a dry cough about 2 weeks ago. And my wife, she actually lost her sense of smell and her sense of taste. So we went to Clara Mass Hospital, and they basically, as we stood in line to get into the emergency room, told us on the fly, no paperwork, nothing like that, no test. Oh, you guys got it. Basically, go home and self-quarantine because we don't have tests right now. So we went home and we went to work. We got on our herbs, we did our steam, you know what I mean? We, got better. And basically, that was all to that. But I don't know if they put us on a list saying that, we was diagnosed, but I don't want to understand how they diagnose people without testing them. I actually called because I work at Amazon, and the COVID was going around rampantly in Amazon, so I was concerned. Like I was really thinking, okay, well, since this is spreading, maybe they need to shut Amazon down because even though people think they're safe, well, I'm sitting home and I got a package and ain't nobody touch it or whatever. What if the person who's sick is packing your package? Now you got a Trojan horse. You know what I'm saying? So I did what all of that, but to no avail because Amazon got a lot of money, so they're not closing nothing down until somebody pass away in the facility, which is unfortunate. But aside from that, when me and my lady we got into it, you know what I'm saying. But like I said, we came home, we held up. It was a couple of weeks, I feel 100% right now. But at the same time, I was calling to see if the test was available because, on the 2-1 information line, it's telling you, just call the number for the city of Newark and they'll set you up with a test at Weekway Park. But for the past 2 weeks, even though I don't even want a test now, you know what I'm saying? But for the past 2 weeks, they've been saying, well, okay, we don't have no test available. So I'm saying, well, how's they going up with the numbers every day if this test is not even something that, you know what I mean, they passing out. Like, they actually say to you on the phone, and this was the lady at the Clara Mass Hospital also told me, oh, we don't have no test available. So I'm like, well, how every day on the news they, you know, jacking up, but then I understand that the fear factor. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? I sat back and was, you know, thinking about that. So I started doing my research, you know what I mean? I started calling my, you know, people in the healthcare industry, you know what I'm saying, asking them about, you know, what kind of symptoms, you know what I'm saying? And my cousin, who's a nurse and she's in Virginia, she was telling me that, you know, a lot of people that have it, you know, they lose their sense of smell and taste. So I'm like, okay, maybe it actually was that, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm glad my wife is feeling better and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So then I went a little bit deeper, you know what I mean? My other cousin was sending me some information about how the coronavirus is patented, and you know, those are the things that I was posting the other day when we spoke, you know, and basically it's a paper trail to this because they practiced this event back in October. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, whether, you know, we understand that, you know, every year people get sick from the flu. Every year, thousands and thousands of people die from the flu. But this event of having everybody in the house is them practice. It's a control practice. You know what I'm saying? So what we have to understand is that, you know, what are they getting ready for? You know, this is what we have to be prepared for. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going? Like, we waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know what I'm
I
saying?
had that thought. I had that
really,
thought, Islam.
Islam. I really think, you know, that it didn't work with the effectiveness that they wanted it to, as far as the fear factor and causing panic and things of that nature. Because then it's easy to say, okay, martial law, blah, 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 blah. But I really think it's a stepping stone in them getting ready. You know what I'm saying? Because before all of this was happening, you know what I mean, when Bill Gates was stepping down from Microsoft and things of that nature, this is what he was talking about. Oh, the worst thing that could happen would be if some disease took over the whole world, you know what I'm saying, and everybody got sick and we had to make some kind of response, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, recalling that and then looking at things on the internet, it's like, yeah, this was the plan. So even though, you know, it didn't work with the effectiveness that maybe they planned it out to be, you know what I'm saying, that we get down and think about, oh yeah, you know, on March the 22nd and what was that, 2006? The Georgia Guidestones appeared with this exact plan engraved on it. You know what I'm saying? So somebody knew, and somebody was out here expecting that this was going to happen, and this was their response to it. But because we didn't react in the way that they expected us to react, now it's like kind of up in the air. Or maybe even Trump didn't react in the way that they expected him to fall in line like all these other politicians. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's the only thing that kind of saved us. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's where I'm at in the mind with it. But we also have to make a plan because, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, the other shoe ain't dropped yet.
Right.
Islam.
Speaking of that other shoe dropping, I work in healthcare. I was kind of shooting the one with my coworkers that actually work the COVID unit, and I'm like, what if this is the practice run for them actually dropping something with an already crippled healthcare system?
Right.
Absolutely. And
we're
you know
getting smacked.
Right.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Yeah, I would imagine this is definitely reshaping our healthcare system in this country. Regardless, I think it's going to show our flaws. It's going to. It's a broken system. I think it's either twofold. Either they're trying to privatize it more, or they're trying to set the case for universal healthcare. At that point, they'll probably come along with mandatory vaccinations, which is scary. You know, the fact that they even
because this is wild.
Yeah. Now, one thing about Jersey, New Jersey had they just had a situation earlier this year in January where they were going to vote. They were going to vote that religious exemption wasn't valid to exempt yourself from vaccination. Now it didn't pass.
Away in New York.
They took it away in New York, but in Jersey they caught on to it and they fought it and it didn't pass. Not only that,
Look,
brother, I think brother another brother, he had shared something with me. He shared that they also passed a law in Jersey where um that if you want to get vaccinated, the health provider has to provide a list of all ingredients that's in the
mhm.
vaccination. You know what I'm saying? What's in it and so forth. So basically, you have once you get that, you can't basically they can't give it to you without giving you a list of all that stuff, where it came from,
That's what's up. And I'm
Yeah,
they
they
from.
have
surprised.
they the way I've seen it, especially with because I have small children who weren't vaccinated this year.
Praise the Lord.
It's upon request that you get the ingredients, what's in it, all of
Yeah, they
that.
have to give it's upon the quest. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm disappointed New York State didn't even go that route, that they just so quickly jumped on a couple of little cases and that happened in a Jewish community and apply that to the whole state,
Yeah.
to take away
Islam.
the mandate. Islam.
It's on, brother.
The craziest thing that I saw, you know what I mean, and I actually posted that as well. You know, some of the testing kits that they were sending to the United Kingdom were actually found to be, contaminated with the COVID-19.
What?
And it's like, yo, how is that a mistake? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'll send you the information that I got. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, how is that a mistake? And now, you know what I mean? Do you got to worry about getting, you know what I mean, infected with the disease when you go to get tested? So, like, I told my wife, like, look, we're not even going for that. Like, this is over with. You know what I mean? We beat it. That's great. You know what I'm saying? We're going to tell other people how to, you know what I mean, open up their respiratory system and use the steam and things of that nature, and the cayenne pepper. You know what I'm saying? And do that regimen. Hopefully, you know what I mean, could, build your breathing back up. You got to get up and move because it make you, make you tired, make you lethargic. You know what I'm saying? But, bro, that was the scariest thing I seen in the last since this whole situation started. Like, how can you have tests that's contaminated with the disease? That's too coincidental. You know what I mean? I mean, everything happened for a reason, and we got to pay attention. But let's really pay attention to the way that these people move. They're not giving us no tests. They diagnosing us by eyesight, and then you know what I'm saying. The test is contaminated. No, I don't want no test, brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna sit here. You know what? I am gonna self-isolate, and I am gonna heal myself. And beyond that, I don't want nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? And when you talk about mandatory, nah. You know what? How many times we gonna play this game in our history? In our history, and on this land right here. Forget about around the world. How many times we gonna play that same game with these people?
That's
No.
right.
Right.
Right. You forget this the home of the Tuskegee experiment, which still
And
ongoing. People don't know that's still going on. That's not. It
that's
never
one
ended.
thing. They don't have new tricks. You know what I'm saying? They just basically do the
They
same thing because
reinvent the
people don't
wheel.
Yeah.
understand a lot of history. You know?
Yeah.
They
Don't
reinvent
keep
the
it
wheel.
going.
Yes, sir.
And brother Islam, like to his point, man, the same thing happened. That's where they kind of wanted to ban the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation out of Africa because they found that those vaccinations they were giving them, they were actually injecting them with HIV and injecting them with certain diseases that they claimed that they were over there to help get rid of, right? And like he said, that was done deliberately. It might have went to the wrong country.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That box wasn't supposed to go to Europe. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
supposed to go somewhere else. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mo, they do that, man. You got to remember, we're dealing with big pharma, man. We're dealing with the biggest and most terrorist gangsters on the planet when you're talking about pharmaceuticals and that industry, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got a ready-made 60 billion, 40 billion clientele base.
Licensed drug dealers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man,
Right,
licensed drug
absolutely.
dealers,
Licensed
man.
drug dealers, exactly.
And we have to understand also that big pharma and profiteers not behind healing nobody. Their
No.
game is not healing. Their game is
Nope.
treating symptoms. You know what I'm saying?
Treating
So if
symptoms
we
and keeping
understand
you
that
sick.
from the gate, you know what I mean, then we understand that they nurturing disease, keeping the disease going so they could keep making money. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
Or
saying?
giving you
So
something else to treat something else.
Yep, to treat
yeah, it's like
something
you
else.
take your car to the mechanic and then, he give it a tune-up, but now, you got some kind of noise coming from the muffler. You know what I'm saying? So you got
Mm-hmm.
to take it back to them the next week. Like,
Yep.
nah, bro, like, I'm gonna learn that I don't need to see you. I need to see a professional. You know what I'm saying? Somebody gonna do what they say they're gonna do, and that's gonna be that.
Yeah.
Islam. Islam.
That's all.
Islam. So we can see that, and even relating to the story of this passage, the people wanted, basically pay, Barabbas, crooked. You know what I'm saying? He paid his way. These people, politicians are crooked. They're paying their way before they did what they're doing wrong. You know what I'm saying? And the people are going to accept whatever that's being pushed. You know what I'm saying? Via the machine, the money machine, via, the popularity machine. And why I say popularity, because I'm going to go into the name of Barabbas. It says right here, if you can see the slide, it says first the part is a Chaldean or Aramaic, bar, right? Because you got Beth, and then you have Ra, the Ra within Hebrew. And then it says, further going down, bar is cognate with the Hebrew noun ben, okay? Both mean one is a certain house, one of a certain profession, one of a certain country, so on. Those nouns are regular words for son. Now, son doesn't necessarily mean biological, but it means he may be of a certain house, he may be a certain country. He's son of this, he's son of that. Barabbas, he's a Barabbas, right? Meaning of the father, son of the father. It's believed that Barabbas was the son of a rabbi or somebody popular, okay? And he had a lot of money with him. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, you have these individuals. It's kind of like Trump. You know what I'm saying? Barabbas could looked at like Trump. Barabbas could be looked at somebody like Bill Gates. Bill Gates could be son of Windows. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Son of, you know what I'm saying? Son of, what he deals with. Son of technology. Because these individuals have these clout, and what they're doing, they're pushing their idea out, which the masses are willing to take and accept. You have people who of NAACP, and not to speak radical against anyone, but they have different ideas when it comes to how we are supposed to identify, and what our people are, are quick to accept the most popular. You know what I'm saying? The most known, because anything else that goes against it, they reject it. Like you're saying, someone standing in that position with that Christ consciousness, like Prophet Noble Ali, with the idea of that we're not Negro, Black, and colored, or Ethiopian, but we are Moorish American, and our race is Asiatic. So when we go into the census, we do with the census, that we're trying to promote the census, we're telling people, hey, we're Asiatic, you know what I'm saying, we're Moorish. Some people like it because, it's starting to catch on a little bit, but some people are staying like, no. Some people are rejecting it and saying like, hey, man, you about to take the money away from, us getting money, into the community. But, Brother Birdell will tell you straight up, that money been coming for years. Ain't nobody nothing with it.
I was just getting ready to say, we ain't seen a dime of it. And that goes back to, I think that's the 15th Amendment or so, where we're still counted as 3/5 of a person. It takes 15 of us to add up to one.
Yeah. And none of that applies. And let me explain that too. And I took this lesson. I took a lesson from Brother Kerry and Lindale yesterday. We were drawing for a minute. It was supposed to be one. I called him. I joked with Solo today. I called him for one thing. We ended up talking for like an hour and some shit. Like, man, I'm trying to get one question out of him. Why we end up talking so long? But it's cool though. I love talking to the brother. He dropped a measure on me. He said, when you're dealing with the 14th Amendment, the 14th and 15th, when the prophet said neither of them was applicable, that means that they don't apply in the sense of we don't need to go through that process to become married citizens because we were already born on this soil.
That's right.
All we need to do is be in our proper person, and then, and then we'll be accepted as citizens.
That's right.
So therefore, that 15, that applies to the slave. Who weren't really
right, that applies to the Negro, black color,
who weren't, and what they wanted to do is they wanted to confuse the pop. They're saying because they knew who we were, but we can confuse you. You know what I'm saying, and put all y'all in eggs in the back, put all y'all in the same back bucket, y'all ain't gonna know who y'all are. So that's why you got people like I praise God, I praise Allah for the Most High, basically for all our scholars, brother Clyde Winters, all the but brother Clyde Winters, I'm a friend of him on Facebook. He be still pushing that. He pushed that Edos sometimes. I think he stopped recently, but that African descended of slave type of thing. I'm like, oh Lord. I was like, so, but that's the confusion. You got people coming with all these different things because now they're trying to wing reparations in front of you. Hey, reparations. The only way you can get it if you have to identify a certain way.
They know you're not getting it without a nationality, man.
Yeah, you ain't getting it without a nationality.
No, you're not. It's like they just doing that to pacify the so-called Negro, and their cries, and they're just to kind of keep them at bay. Let us speak for you. We'll take care of this issue, and it's like, nah, bro, we got this. We gonna show y'all what it is. We gonna file this class action lawsuit in a national court, like Malcolm said. You take your criminal to his court. You take him to the world court.
Right, and that's how you're supposed to do it.
And you don't ask them for reparations. You take them to court and sue them for reparations. Ain't no asking. I'm not asking. Why I gotta ask you? If I know you punched me in my face, broke my jaw, broke my nose, and did damage, I couldn't work. I don't need to ask you, can I sue you for that?
Right.
For what? You caused the damages. The punitive damages have been done.
Right.
We're gonna go to court now. Now I'm gonna take you on Judge Joe Brown, and we're gonna get it on.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to wonder why so many Asiatics are afraid of the courts. And I'm like, do you understand that's one massive tool? Like, you really want to make them pay for something that they did? Use their own system. They don't get it.
Yeah, you gotta use their own system, and that's what the prophet was doing. Is that
right, but the Asiatics was taught that the court is always against them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
not only that, going back for a second, why is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation respected in circles of healthcare? They're not doctors. The only thing they have, as far as I know, is money.
Exactly.
They're huge donors to a lot of pharmaceutical research and vaccination.
Yeah, they're in the pocket of World Health Organization.
They doing that
they basically own World Health
Organization. They doing that Barabbas degree, Morris.
Yeah.
Just ready. How he getting that? You know what I'm saying? They doing the money.
We gonna buy this off.
They go, and then they gonna crucify. They're gonna crucify the Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Islam. So
they already did, Mo. They went on that stint of from like 2015 probably to recent where they were, healers and a lot of herbalists and stuff were coming up dead mysteriously. You know what I'm saying? And well ahead of this, I think, this being released. Like you said, it's like it was like a build-up, you know what I'm saying, over the last couple of years to say, this is coming. And then, when the brothers talk about what's that book that came out in the 70s and the 80s that talked about the disease being released. Like, that was heavy to see that plainly right there in the book. Yeah, I think I screenshotted the book. Somebody put it on. They shared excerpts of the book from it's like 78, 79, way before I know I was born. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but it was like before we were
the Dean Koontz book.
They was talking about, in 2020 it'll be, and they said it, Wuhan. They called it Wuhan. It'd be like Wuhan, and I was just like, are you serious? Like, yo, that's crazy. Like, and he didn't make it up because he put the information, showed the book, and you could tell the book it was an old copy of the book.
Yeah, several authors.
Right, Dan Koontz, The Eyes of Darkness.
Dan Koontz, The Eyes of Darkness. Y'all hear that?
Okay.
Islam, y'all got that, Morris?
Islam.
Dan Koontz, The Eyes of Darkness. I want to try. I don't know. They might have that out of print right now.
I mean, honestly though, Dean Koontz does write some really esoteric stuff. I read that Odd Thomas book, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, just, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got into the temple, and I've been into, ever since I got off the road of the church. I hate to make this about me, but ever since I got off the road of the church, I started to question everything around me. I was like, wait a minute, this don't make sense. And then you start asking questions, and people be like, you crazy. And I'm like, I ain't crazy. It makes sense.
for asking for thinking.
For
For you
thinking,
being
right.
trained to think,
Thinking.
you being called crazy. So that show you going back to the scripture. Most of the people was already preconditioned to something. So when you come along, like, wait. Think about this now. Think about it. Think. They can't because the emotion is too high. That, like in that story, the people was emotionally roused up. They couldn't hear what he was telling them about Jesus. Like, yo, he innocent. Man, that nigga did it. Excuse my language. That's a mentality of our people, right? Like right now, somebody we here talking, right? Building, you know, in the spirit of love. Somebody could pop on that TV in 5 more minutes. Oh, brother, Terrence Burdell just went and shot up the mall. Meanwhile, the mall is closed. The mall ain't even open. Man, why that brother go shoot up the mall? Y'all on the call with me, right? Somebody just, man, that brother went in. That brother was wrong for that. And it's like, yo, I'm here with you. I'm innocent.
Right. They did the same
Yeah,
thing
man.
with R. Kelly. R. Kelly didn't do it until it went up on the news. Bill Cosby didn't do it until it went up on the news.
Went on the news.
And I'm like, we was just defending these brothers 6 months ago.
Yes. Now look, just that quick.
Now look.
They did it.
Sheeple.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, human hearts, man, emotions, man, they can't. It's like water. You know, once I learned that lesson, you know, that they say that's the symbolism of when they say, oh, Jesus walked on water. Physically he did it, but you know, even that spiritual message in that walking on water, that's being able to kind of traverse the emotions of the public.
Islam, that's a good one.
Islam.
You know, that's fickle. The emotions, we know that in the circle 7, man, that public opinion, man, that rise and fall.
The public is ungrateful.
Yeah,
and
they ungrateful.
Why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools?
Endanger himself for fools. You know what I mean? So, and that's where it come down to, man. But when you know that mission, like our brother Christ had and the prophet had, and even us now, because we follow that pattern. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, just we say we Moorish American. We follow the prophet. We just you put him first. You know, he said through who? Through your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. So we got all that beef, that spiritual beef and all that. They did too, man. It's on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he said 2,000 years ago. Those who were with me 2,000 years ago with me today. Those that are against me 2,000 years ago, still against me. Those spirits, man, them spirits got jobs to do, man. And unfortunately, they infiltrate the hearts and minds of the people. You know what I mean? And those of us, that's why we say we know it's not gonna be everybody. It's a small few that's chosen to do this work. And you got a lot of Barabbas out here too. They gonna secretly follow us, but in public they gonna wash their hands with it. Like, man, yeah, I know brother Talik L, brother Bird L, the sister. And as soon as something negative come up, man, tell y'all what.
Man,
Yeah, I know the brother.
I've been feeling like Jesus for 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, you asking questions now? You're definitely gonna start feeling like him now. Like, it's radical. You know, for one, that we're called radical for asking simple questions. You're radical. Oh, you're this and that. And it's like, no, I'm thinking.
Right.
You're
not making no logical sense. Like, that's illogical. Logic, you got to be able to prove it with science. All right, here you go. Yeah. And now that I'm in the temple, I'm like, okay, here you go. And they're like, I can't handle this right now.
I can't handle it right now.
Great, water, done.
It's too. What we talked about this with the brothers Davis earlier. How, you know, the octave or the ethers on the planet is going up, and so that's another thing you're gonna see people impacted by too. Like your vibratory rate is not keeping pace. We know that in the circle 7, the rate of atmosphere. So if your vibratory rate is not keeping up with the rest of the universe, the multiverse, you're gonna perish on this plane of existence.
Right.
You're not able to sustain. Your vessel is not fine-tuned and wired for this age. You know, remember before was the preparation age. Now we're in a fulfillment age.
Right.
Right? So if your spirit is not in the mode of fulfilling, and you're still trying to be in a old age, you ain't gonna make it.
It's
Yeah,
what do we call it? When the glass breaks and you like hit a certain note and the glass shatters, that's where we at.
Yeah,
exactly, sis.
yeah.
Yeah.
Glasses are shattering, and that's people's lives, vessels, and stuff. You know what I mean? That this frequency is starting to vibrate too high,
Mhm.
and it done jumped up quickly. You know what I mean? Like I told my boy, I said, yo, we done went from a third dimension reality to a fifth. We done skipped four.
Mhm.
Skip
So that's a
forward.
process that they got like a Thanos snap. You know what I mean? Like in the snap of a finger, this thing done, we done jumped up an octave.
Absolutely.
Sis,
You know what I
And
mean?
music is
And
one of the divine sciences. So like people not listening, they're not paying attention. And I'm like, oh well. And even in my temple, people interact with some of the Moors, and they're like, I don't want to talk to these people. I'm like, but that's the job. I don't want to get down there and get dirty with them. I'm like, how can you be dirty if man is not the body? Like, the way out. You're supposed to get down there and show them.
right.
Islam.
Islam.
And then speaking of the vibratory, that's why they use fear, because it reduces you to that simple mind, that fight or flight. You know what I'm saying? And once you're in that simple mind, you know what I mean, you easily control. You
Like
easily
they take you
become
down
this
to
shit.
pure instinct.
right, that's right.
Wild.
Islam, boys, we're gonna move on.
Islam.
So you got, oh man, look, you guys doing it, man. Y'all definitely sharing some beautiful measures and expanding the lessons, man. I ain't expect this, but we're gonna try to
Propagate
move.
the faith.
Yes,
Right.
yes, ma'am. Yes, sis. So we're gonna move on with the lesson real quick, and we got a little more I want to cover before we close out. But we got verse 16 through 27 in the Moorish Holy Quran, same chapter 16. And the pilot trembled like a leaf in fear. Barabbas he released, and as the Lord stood forth before the mob, the ruler said, "Behold your king." And would you put to death your king? The Jews replied, like you said, Brother T. Burdell, he is no king. We have no king but great Tiberius. Now Pilate would not give consent that Roman soldiers should imbue their hands in blood of innocents. So the chief priests and the Pharisees took the council what to do with Jesus. Caiaphas has said, "We cannot crucify this man. He must be stoned to death and nothing more." And the rabbi said, "Make haste, let him be stoned," and then led him forth toward the hill beyond the city gates, where the criminals were put to death. The rabble could not wait until they reached the place of skulls. As soon as they passed the city gates, they pushed upon him, smote him with their hands, spit upon him, stoned him. He fell upon the ground. And one, a man of Allah, stood forth and said, Isaiah said, he shall be bruised for our transgressions, and by his stripes we shall be healed. And Jesus laid all bruised and mangled on the ground. High priest called out, Stay, you men. Behold, the guards of Herod come, and they will crucify this man. And then beside the city gate found Barabbas' cross. And then the frenzied mob cried out, Let him be crucified. Caiaphas and others ruling Jews came forth and gave consent. And then they lifted Jesus from the ground, and at the point of the swords, they drove him on. Okay, they drove him on. A man named Simon from Cyrene, a friend of Jesus, was near the scene, and since the bruised and wounded Jesus could not bear his cross, they laid it on his shoulders and of this man, and made him bear it to Calvary. So, as you can see, the Pilate, being as weak as he was, and he ended up just washing his hands and letting it go. He said, "Behold your king." As you can see, as we talked about before, the people, and as most people are, we're wishy-washy. We're very wishy-washy with of who we believe in, what we believe in, what we stand by. The media can get us all twisted. So these people jumped. They already wasn't feeling Jesus, but they know they just a minute ago was willing to tear up and exile a governor of Tiberias, and now Tiberias is the great king. You know what I'm saying? You see how wishy-washy the people are.
Yeah.
This verse or this passage describes the mentality of society and what we deal with. And it doesn't matter. We're gonna have to go against some of the people in high places, people who call themselves priests, some people who call themselves sheiks and grand sheiks. Islam, there's gonna be some people who wear a fez and a turban, just like us. They're gonna be the ones the crucified, because when we uphold the truth of the prophet and we're saying this is how it needs to be done, some people be like, no, Mo, they ain't, nah, we've been doing it like this. Like, well, Mo, trying to calm us down until actually trying to get rid of it. You know what I mean?
And we got to remember too, man, how we even got in this big mess we got in is because of the moles that was around the prophet.
Exactly. The prophet said, I built this movement on the back of snakes and scorpions. He was talking about the ones that was with him. When he said there's only one more scientific America, and that's mine. And it's mine. He was actually talking about the Moors, the Moorish Americans that were in his leadership around him, who actually tried to basically start another more scientific America. Now, I'm not talking about after he passed on. I'm talking about when the prophet was still in the flesh, while he was still there. Claude Green tried to go file with actually trying to start another more scientific America. This is why it started off in steps. You got an article where he steps down. He steps down from his position, right? He steps down from his position. That's already in the Morris Guide. Claude Green steps down from business manager, right? Yep. And then what happened later? You know what I'm saying? I don't know what happened, why he did, specifically, for the article. It could have been something behind those closed doors. But for the most part, then you see Claude Green, he kicks the prophet stuff out, and he says, basically he's taking over the leadership. Prior to that, you had Lomax Bey. Lomax Bey was with Claude Green. Was with Claude Green at the time. You know what I mean? There was several others that were with Claude Green. You know what I'm saying? And they knew, and the prophet knew of this. You know what I mean? This is why he asked Emilio, he said, you're either with them or you with me.
You with me?
Yeah, because he had to. He said he trusted Emilio. He gave Emilio, basically the leadership because he trusted Emilio. Emilio was able to be trusted. You know what I'm saying? Nobody else was really trusted at the time. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't too sure about Kirkman Bey. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't too sure about Kirkman Bey. But it came to find out, as the prophet revealed, you know what I'm saying? If you read the minutes from the first convention, as the prophet said, he said he's going to stir up. He's going to send out a spirit, you know what I'm saying, that's going to reveal everything to people, who's who. And it happened. And that spirit was still moving even after he died, because people started coming out of the woodworks, trying to start their own demonstration, or they moved with Kirkman Bey. You know what I'm saying? It just, after a while, you see where everybody's trust happened, where it went. It's almost like if you read the story or the story account of Jesus, brother Jesus, in the Bible, it kind of parallels with our prophet, what it happens where when he passed form, when Jesus had passed form on the supposed cross and so forth, according to the Christian story, his disciples and everybody else, because he had more than 12. It was more than 12 that was with him. He just had the main 12 that was with him.
Yeah, those main ones.
It was the main ones. But even them and others, all of them began to doubt at the time when he had passed form. They doubted and they left. You know what I'm saying? And they switched sides. They went to this one, they went there. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the prophet. The prophet, with Ali, when he left past form, some people went the other way. They said, you know what? That's it. We don't know about this Emilio guy. I guess we better go with Kirk.
They washed their hands.
They washed their hands of the situation and went with where they needed to go. You know what I'm saying? Or where they felt they needed to go. You know,
Yeah.
But see here in Jesus' account, you know what I'm saying, you had the people already disliking. But it came to a more friends when, you know what I'm saying, they had him in his possession. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, when they got around the gate, that's when they started pounding them, beating them up, throwing rocks, everything, so forth. The key thing, what I like about this passage too, is that it still lines up with Islam, but it's not really telling you that he went up on the cross. Okay, the prophet cuts it off right here. Noble Ali, when he inserted this passage, he cuts it off right here, because then when you go to the next chapter, he talks about him appearing in front of the silent brotherhood. Okay, we will go to that next week, but let's deal with some signs. We'll go and deal with some signs real quick. When Jesus was led, he was led to Calvary, which Calvary actually means skull.
Yep.
Coming to Greek and Latin. Okay.
Place of the skull.
Face of the skull. Skull mainly in the story were meant like the skulls of those who were crucified there. They left their bones and skulls there. But lo and behold,
Mo, hit me offline. I want to tell you, I don't know if you're on the brother page, but he shared images, the actual images from that place.
Really?
The actual location. And even Jesus' tomb. He even put it online. That messed me up. And he put the narration with his tomb. Like images from inside the tomb Joseph buried him in, and it's still there. And we'll talk offline. I'll show you that. But he shared it on his Facebook page from his time there. I'm talking about everything, bro. Read the description. That's it. That's the place.
Right.
And it's his tomb. The tomb right there, covered in rock. It's actually a quarry, almost like where Joseph bought his tomb and put him in.
Right.
And you have to remove stone. You see it. You have to remove stone to get into his tomb. And then there was like a step with like an altar where you could tell they put his body up there. That's where Joseph had his body wrapped and put at up there. And even the trees, it is a place of the trees. They had to go through a bunch of trees to get on the other side of the hill from where they hung him at. And you can see where they hung him at as well. The reason being why everybody make reference to like the foot of the cross is because you couldn't go anywhere else because it's a steep drop from where he was hanging. That's why everybody could see them, because they was hanging on the hill, but they was like basically on the edge.
Oh.
Yeah, like on the edge. So you couldn't come up there to try to let him go. Like, it was like the soldiers, and they pierced his side to make sure he was dead. That's why they was stabbing and piercing his side, to make sure he was done, that he couldn't move no more. Because you see, they beat him to death and then just left him to hang and stretch and pull it. It was torture, man. They treated him like a criminal.
But historically, everybody went through that similar process. You know what I'm saying? That was like mandated. You know what I'm saying? Like that was just how you would get tortured amongst the Romans. You would get crucified.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
like a criminal.
The criminal, but he was, we know Jesus wasn't a criminal in the fact that he stood for his rights. You know what I'm saying? This is the first freedom fight, or not the first, but this is an example of
the most significant one.
Significant, yeah. What goes on when we stand up against, different injustices. You know what I mean? Now you can see that Jesus never fought back in a sense. This is symbolic, because the idea is when Jesus go to the skull, the Mount, Calvary, or place of skulls. And I know it's in church they'll never say place of skulls. A lot of them don't say, they'll just still say Calvary. But you know what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is dealing with symbolically that consciousness was being raised through trial and error. You know what I'm saying? Through persecution, raising that consciousness. Because being conscious doesn't mean, I just have all these, I got my crystals, I got my books, I got, what I'm saying, I'm fitting the thing. Nah, consciousness means you're maintaining, you're actually raising your vibration, and it's not an easy thing. There's a book called the Revelation, the Apocalypse, the actual Apocalypse book, or the Revelation of Ionis, right? That book there tells about a person's consciousness being shifted, the person's consciousness being shifted through enlightenment. But it's not an easy thing. It's not a pretty thing. Islam, that's not a pretty thing at all. That's
Chapter
not
3.
it's not a relaxing experience at all. It's a trialing experience. You're actually going through doubt. You're actually going through the situation. You could be persecuted. You know what I'm saying? Your body's being shifted. Your thought pattern, you might be off one day. You know what I'm saying? Just to off of a full week. You might be going through a whole lot of things to actually get into you'll reach that level of consciousness. Now, I put the pineal gland here because that's where people say the Christ consciousness exists. You know what I'm saying? When you activate that pineal gland, as Jesus says, if that eye be single, your whole body will fill up with light. He was dropping the gem. He was talking about that in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? He's speaking to this eye right here. And ancient brethren, the Kemites, they actually knew about this eye. And they symbolized it in their text. The pineal gland being the eye of Horus. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that consciousness. And that same eye, you will see on our when we get a chance, look at your divine constitution and bylaws. Prophet knew what he was talking about. Islam. He's talking about raising the conscience. See, that whole story, where we're going when we talk about Jesus in this trial, is a whole story of raising your consciousness. You know what I'm saying? Keeping a divine conscience through this persecution. You know what I'm saying? Barabbas is usually what the people usually will do. You know, basically everything was in divine plan. Barabbas is supposed to go. Barabbas is supposed to go. You know what I'm saying? If you raise the idea to a higher level of this story, Barabbas is supposed to go. You know what I'm saying? The thug is supposed to get kicked out. You know what I'm saying? And you're supposed to put the consciousness higher to the Mount Skull. You're supposed to raise your consciousness higher and keep that Jesus type energy, you know, on a higher level in your thought process. You know what I'm saying? It's just everything is put symbolically. That's why these stories are put in a symbolic way. You know what I'm saying? You know, sometimes, and it has different layers of meaning. Okay, but needless to say, there's also a meaning we can go into, and that relates to the story. We're gonna jump into the questionnaire. 74 to 84, right? We're gonna talk key 74. What does it say? It says, what did the higher self say to the lower self at the time when he met Satan? We're dealing with the Calvary. We're gonna see. We gotta build up to it. He said, he says, where are you going, Satan? 75. What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self? I'm going to and fro earth, seeking whom I may devour. Islam. 76. Has he finished the task of devouring? Yes. When has his time declared out? When he nailed Jesus to the cross. What were the last words Jesus uttered? It is finished. What did he have reference to? He had reference to the end of Satan. Now understand this. You have the higher self, the lower self. It's building the process up, or the concept of one self saying to the other. Basically, your inner conscious always. You're saying this energy exists on this planet, and it's always going to challenge or be challenged. You know what I'm saying? As it goes forward, the higher self is always going, or the lower self is always going to challenge the higher self. The higher self is always going to check the lower self. Where are you going? The higher self is going to oblige and say, hey, I'm going to and fro, seek where I may devour. He says, is he done devouring? Is Satan done devouring? Is the devouring done? What he's saying is this. When you devour something, that means you consume it. What he's saying is, when you nail Jesus to the cross, when you put him on a higher and you raise that consciousness up, right? It's saying the devouring is done. Your lower self can no longer devour or devour your being or devour your thoughts or devour your actions and so forth. And you know what I'm saying? It doesn't devour your time. It doesn't devour who you are. Because now you focused your mind conscious, you know what I'm saying, on a higher level. You know what I'm saying? So this is what it's, you know, this is pretty much, you could take concept and relate it to the passage of what we were speaking about in chapter 16. Now, the way the prophet put it, he also flips it on a historical level to give you the signs of the energy of what's going on in today. It says, what is the last words Jesus uttered? It is finished. Okay, this is what transition now. What did he reference to? He had reference to the end of Satan. Okay? So I went ahead and say what he's talking about. Okay, because we're talking about the higher self, lower self. He didn't call it Satan prior. I mean, he did call it Satan, but he was talking about the higher self. So he's talking about Jesus being nailed to the cross. What is he speaking of? He's speaking of the fall of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire actually began to fail when they adopted Christianity.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
Islam.
Islam.
Jesus to the cross. When, as Brother Birdell said, when they took the concept of who Jesus really was and made it into a Christian ideal, Islam, they turned it into a Christian ideal and made their religion. They were already on a decline because not too short after that situation, not too short after that situation is when the uprisings began in the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire began to fall. Islam. So what happens? We go further. It says 80. Did Jesus say that he would return to conquer him? Yes.
Yes.
So what is the first name of the person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated? Now understand the word says, what is the first name? You go and see. What is the name of the person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated? The name of that person, they say Prophet Muhammad the Conqueror. All right, some people go like, oh my gosh, it's not necessarily meaning that Jesus actually fully reincarnated into, or this incarnation, but this ideal or concept of this being or this force actually was embodied the same by Prophet Muhammad, who also one of his attributes is the conqueror. One of his attributes is the conqueror. And some people say, well, that's Muhammad. So Muhammad. No, because it says Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad is mentioned later. So why they say, okay, yeah, because what Prophet Muhammad was doing, he was doing the same thing. He was bringing a consciousness back into the people. The same thing Jesus was doing. He had to bring that consciousness to the Asiatics the same way Jesus brings to the consciousness of the Asiatics in his time. Islam. Because people had forgot what happened was the Roman Empire was still forcing their new ideology now. They're forcing the false narrative of Jesus. That's why in the Koran of Mecca, it says basically that Jesus never was crucified because they had to end that understanding. So when Prophet Nabil Ali said when he nailed Jesus to the cross, he was talking about the Roman Empire. When they nailed him to the cross, when they put him in their ideology box, okay, Islam, and from that point, that's when they basically symbolized a new era in time. So these lines are talking about a shift in power, a shift in era. Islam. So now we're going forward when it goes into the era of Prophet Muhammad. When Prophet Muhammad comes, he conquers basically his land for Allah. And he writes the idea of Jesus back as Jesus being a prophet and not a mythical son of God, not God in the flesh who you gotta worship. You know what I'm saying? But he puts it back in the place that Jesus was a prophet, just like he was. Islam. So it wasn't necessarily, saying that Prophet Muhammad and Jesus were one, and saying that Jesus, spirit got into. No, what it's saying is that same essence or that teaching or that force that existed in Jesus existed in Prophet Muhammad. And that same essence also goes down to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Islam. As you can see, he's carrying humanity. You see, he's coming in the cares of the world, which are like the flood and the emotions and stuff that's going on. Cares dealing with emotions and feelings, Islam. So what happens at this point? You know what I'm saying? Is he's coming out, he's calling humanity out of the cares of the world. You know what I'm saying? Kind of almost like walking on water in a sense. Islam. But moving forward, here's the thing. Bound in part, head taken off. Was Satan to be bound then? Satan was bound in part. That's the answer. When was the head of Satan taken off? 1453 Byzantine. By who? By Muhammad. Okay. He said pretty much Muhammad. The actual, or the name that's used historically is Muhammad II. Okay. Muhammad is usually a derivative of the term Muhammad. Some people don't use Muhammad. Some say Muhammad. Some will call him Muhammad as well. Muhammad was basically the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire at the time, going against the Byzantine Empire. If anyone knows about the Byzantine Empire, and he took the head off of the ruler at that time, conquering Constantinople and putting under the Islamic rule, Islam. So when the prophet mentioned this, he's mentioning a shift in power, a shift in era of era time. Why? Because the Byzantine Empire equals the Eastern Roman Empire. That's all it was. You had the Western provinces of Roman Empire, and you had the Eastern Roman Empire. The Byzantine Empire was basically, like I said, the Eastern rule over the parts of Africa and so forth and so on. Maybe even Judea and likes of that. Now, I don't think y'all can see this line here, but maybe I should have made it a lot bigger. But if you divide this in half, right? He said he took, go back, 83. When was the head of Satan taken off? 1453 Byzantine. This is the Byzantine crest. Islam, this is the crest of the Byzantine Empire. You see it? And I drew a line. He said he took the head off, bound in part.
That's right.
Islam.
Islam.
Let's move. Look, here we go.
The right head was taken off. The left
Right
one's still.
Yep. The left one's still alive. Look. Islam.
No, not really. Remember, the prophet took care of that one.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did. I can't actually see what you're looking at.
I got the jug in one hand and the stopper in the other.
Yes, sir.
So it's over.
Hold on, Sister, what you say?
I said I can't see what you're looking at.
Oh, you're not. Oh, you're on the phone. You're not. With the.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Don't worry. This is all recorded on the thing. It's gonna be on. I'm gonna put the video. Okay.
It's on.
It's on. Yeah. So we got. What direction is the eagle facing?
Islam, Mo.
Yeah. You see it?
I want y'all to look up something too. You ever saw the picture of Saint Maurice?
Hold on, Mo.
The Moor.
Saint Maurice.
Saint Maurice, the Moor in England.
Hold on. You said Saint Maurice?
I want y'all to go either try to find an image of Saint Maurice or look at the flags of Albania from like the 1600s. It's an Asiatic holding their flag with the double-headed eagle on it.
St. Maurice.
St. Maurice. That's who the movie The Black Knight is based off of. It's based off the first Moorish knight in Europe.
You talking about the Black Knight with Martin Lawrence?
Yeah, that's based off St. Maurice. He's the most revered knight throughout history.
Yeah, right. I know exactly. Shoot. Yeah, but you don't. You know what I mean? But you know, here in America,
nah,
they ain't gonna really tell you about it.
Here they you know, one thing I noticed in America, they go out their way to suppress the history of the Moors that was in this country. I was reading a book. Somebody shared an excerpt from a book, and I don't think that people caught in the book. They were talking about the Sultan of America. Because he made a distinction. The author makes a distinction. Where are all these kids coming from? Excuse my language. Okay. But yeah, see it, St. Maurice, and then they're gonna have one of the images where he's holding that flag with the double-headed eagle on it that the Prophet Muhammad conquered.
Right.
That's why now, if you look at some of the national flags that fly, it's rare you'll see the double-headed eagle. If you do, it'll be a Christian nation, especially out of the East.
Right.
Because Byzantine, that became that's the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Exactly.
And that's why the churches, Christianity over here is not really Christianity.
No, it's not.
It's more like what's my boy name in Russia? Putin. He already exposed it. He said, yo, they're Puritans.
Yeah.
Purity, like that's why they believe in that pure blonde, like, you know, we're almost living the what's the word for it? Like, you know, like they're like this is the epitome of it here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With that, that's why it's not really a Christian nation. Like you said, it's more Puritan. That's why they always trying to like they're pure. Everybody else is contaminated. Like you said, how did all of a sudden this coronavirus went from we were the least likely to get it to now we're the most dangerous in getting it? You know what I mean? Type of narrative now that's being pushed.
Right. Yeah. There's several. Wow, there's a whole lot of images.
See? Right there, he's holding the flag. See that image right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it. Hold on. Cause I had it up. Yeah.
Holding it.
Yes, sir.
And then peep what he got on his head.
Yeah, he got this I look like a pimp hat.
Pimp hat. The Prophet had that same hat on in that picture in Mexico.
Yeah, Mo, he did. It didn't have the fluffy, it didn't have the poof thing on there, but he had it.
Hey, if he did have the poof, I don't know if I'd be following the Prophet. He got some poofs on his hat now. That ain't tassels.
Yeah, but this was fly. I guess I was flying back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a
See how it's missing the head?
Yeah. Yeah, it's missing the head because it was taken off.
Yeah, because it was taken off.
It's long. Yeah. The Prophet was telling y'all something.
Yeah. Even that image is telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, in his other hand, he got the sword. Mm-hmm. And then on this hand, he's holding that flag of that where it once was a double-headed eagle.
Right.
Letting you know that they conquered the other head. And this is the sights is on where? The other one.
Mm.
See, be a lot of symbolism in these pictures. They telling stories. Like we just see them like, oh, it's a nice painting, it's art. Nah, he's that's telling a story.
Right. I think he's on some type of pillow.
Yeah.
I just
that man on a big sword too.
Yeah, he put a big old sword and he has a pillow and a medallion. That's
we always got the chains on now.
Yeah.
Always rocking the medallions.
Here's a for those who's want to see the video, here's him right here. This is a rendition of the stone picture of him. He's actually during the time of the Roman Empire.
Yep.
He was their fierce knight.
Saint Maurice.
Yeah.
All right, Mo.
Yes, sir.
I got to get up off the call, man. It's been a pleasure, Mo.
Pleasure, Mo. Definitely. We'll build.
All right.
All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love, Morris.
Peace and love. Islam.
Islam.
All right, Morris. Let's continue. We'll be about done. As you can see, as the prophet actually, and Brother Bird was right, because I'm only highlighting a certain amount of questions, because if you go further on in the questionnaire, after we talk about him being bound apart, the head was taken off by whom? By Muhammad, meaning Muhammad. We go right into 85. And 85 says, name some of the marks that were put on the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774. Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian, right? So they jump from this particular point of history all the way off. So what he's saying is that he's showing you a timeline. He's giving you a timeline sequence of powers being switched. So when it goes to 85, it's talking about, okay, now the same particular energy or particular force or government is still in power, because they're the ones who actually put the marks on us. They knew what they were doing. So when people would have to understand, the prophet had a holistic viewpoint of everything, how everything's being played out. So he's saying this in his storyline, he's telling you, like, we were put under this particular subjection. We're put under this particular rulership. We've been fighting it for a while, and we're fighting it now. And I'm telling you right now, in P85, how it actually began with us. I'll give you the notion. 85, the marks, dealing with the marks. This is how they colonized us here. They colonized us before. We overthrew it with Jesus. And we had, then Muhammad had to come. He had to throw away that Christianity thing, because they were actually trying to still colonize through their new religion now. After they nailed Jesus to the cross and built their religion, now he had to fight the religion of Christianity, not fight Christians, but despite the misrepresentation of that religion. Then the head was taken off in Byzantine, okay, by Muhammad, by the Ottoman Empire, the Turks, right? And then moving forward, they still trying to get us. Now they're trying to put us under with these labels, Islam. So as you can see, it's a back and forth with the Asiatics and this particular rule. And now understand this. Maurice definitely was a Moor, but he was fighting for the Roman Empire. Islam, fighting for the Roman Empire. So we understand that basically where we are now is leading up, dealing with, the rulership, switching of power, switching of an era, a time. So this is definitely an interesting way when you go back and you study your lessons, you study the Koran, study your questionnaire, you can actually see that another way or phase of what they're implementing. You know what I'm saying? They're implementing, at this time. Now, 2020, we're talking about everything. Today is Easter, for the Christian Europeans, and we know for the most fact that, Easter is dealing with the equinox. Islam is dealing with the spring equinox. which already passed supposedly, March 20th, March 21st, but it's still in the transition stage of switching seasons. Okay, so in that sense, when you're dealing with the Son of God or the Son, you're dealing with the Son. You know what I'm saying? Going to the cross being the vernal equinox. In a sense, in dealing with astrology and space and time. You're dealing with the sun moving across the vernal equinox, being on the cross, in its position. The days are getting longer. They really been getting long. Like it just now got dark. Well, I remember just probably in February it would get dark. It was still getting dark around like 5 o'clock. But now it's like it goes into 8 o'clock and or 7, it'd be 7 and some light will still be out. Islam. So any questions about the information? I want to thank Sister Shipman Bay. I want to thank Brother Burdell, Brother Issa too, for sharing their portion. And remember, Morris, if y'all have any portions y'all want to share, please just let don't be hesitate to share with me your thoughts and everything. Anybody has any portion they want to share before we move along to close? Because anybody information I shared, slides. Okay.
Islam Sheikh, I really like your slideshow presentation.
Really, Mo?
Yeah,
Put that mess together, nigga. They like the last nigga time, boy.
I'm here with my nephew and my son, and they're real loud, so I didn't really get to watch the presentation. I'm gonna go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, when I put it up, I got you.
So I hope that you continue. I hope that, inshallah, you continue to make these slides every class. So
yeah, I'm gonna try to
go with the chapters. I really like it. We appreciate it.
Thank you, bro. Because, and I'll be honest, like I'm not quarantined. I'm like Sister Shipman Bay. I'm like yourself, Brother Abdul. You know what I'm saying? And brother, I know Brother Solo as well. You know what I'm saying? We got them essential jobs. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're in shipping or you're in the medical field, I'm direct care with the youth. You know what I'm saying? So we ain't up in the crib like everybody else. And I'll tell you, if I was up in the crib, I'll have a lot more slideshow presentations because I'm a visual person. You know what I'm saying? I study art in college, so I like visuals, for that part. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Brother Abdullah. Anyone else have any questions or concerns before we move? Anything? Oh, brother, I don't think Brother Fatah is on, but the brother he'll hit him if you need oils and you need some of the Prophet's teas, oils or compounds. Brother Fatah L is the man in the area, in the tri-state area.
I'm here.
Islam. Yeah, that's the man right there with the oils, teas, and compounds. He got him in the tri-state area. He's out of Mo. You in the Bronx, right, Mo?
Yes.
He's in the Bronx, so
Ouch.
There ain't nothing to send you something. You know what I'm saying? Just hit him up. The brother's on Facebook, Fatah L. Request to order something. He'll send it to you. Just hit him up, inbox him. And he got oils, he got compounds, and he got the tea. Islam. So, and remember, that compound, not a compound with the tea, you want to take that in a shot form. I'm warning y'all, take it in shot form. You're gonna be quarantining yourself. That thing is strong, man. You're gonna be sitting there. You're gonna be in one room for a long time.
Islam. I knew a sister who would drink it by the cup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh man, she my hero. I ain't drinking.
I'm through.
She my hero. Praise Allah. Yeah, I did that. Actually, I thought I was supposed to do that, and that made it difficult for me to go to work. I just say that. So when a brother, I had talked to another Moor, and they said, "Nah, Mo, we supposed to do it in a shot." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, somebody told me that, but now I know." So humbly, I'm telling those who gets the tea, do it in a shot form. Brother, Solo,
Yes, sir.
you got you got the literature with you?
I do, Mo. Only thing is, man, my light went out on me in my room, so I'm kind of in the dark. So
Yes, sir. All right, I'll cover. Hold on, let me grab it real quick. Pardon, Bobby. In this, yeah. All right, Morris. Islam. Move meeting to the close. Marie. Prophet warned all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. And if those lose confidence in their prophet, give up their card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. Well, this is the holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Nuhu Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Over to reclaim at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me in the movement now, by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. And now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they can take charge of the situation. I have notified all things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. This is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase the faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance. I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. They have been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Boys, before I end out with the prophet's prayer, I want to encourage you, brothers, those who are members of the Moorish Moslem Mission under the Moorish Science Simple America. Remember, our dues are basically due on the 10th. I understand it's strenuous on us because of this time. So, if you have problems paying it, don't worry. Let me know, whatever. And I'm sure, we're not gonna, bleed water from a rock. You know what I'm saying? It's understandable. But for those who can pay it, please pay your dues. Once again, you can pay it through the website, www.mstofa.net. Go there, put in Moorish Moslem Mission 28, and you can pay it through there, and it comes up. Just put a note, dues, and you're $17. Dues are $17 a month. So, and I think I'm gonna try to have a meeting this week so we can discuss what we're gonna do for a convention coming through. Hopefully this quarantine thing will be up by convention. So there is going to be an alignment meeting, a national alignment meeting for all our officers. So basically that's on Wednesday, and we'll find out what we're going to be talking about, and I'm gonna clue y'all in the following day on Thursday. All right, I'll shoot y'all invite, and y'all know, and I'll basically clue y'all in what we talked about. Islam, okay? And please, you ain't gotta travel. You don't have, stay at home, And I'm not saying because you might catch it, but stay at home because, people are acting scary out there. So just stay home if you can. All right, and be careful with yourselves. If you know how, Brother Issa, I'm gonna talk to you later whenever we get a chance. It's like I said, Issa is somebody who's a living proof and testimony. He can beat this virus and everything. So if you know somebody that got it or whatever, or somebody whatever, whatever information, pass on information. That steam thing, I believe, does work. You know what I'm saying? And that's how people have been doing it for years, centuries. It's just steaming the disease out of you, sweat it out your pores. You know what I mean? One sheik, he believes that is nano micro, it's nanotech, but that's a whole nother conversation we gotta have. But for the most part, I thank you, Morris, for attending. And we're gonna move to close. I'm gonna end it with the prophet's prayer. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principle. This we ask in thy holy name and the seventh Elohim. Amen. Islam, Moors.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Islam, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Love, man.